This week, we welcome Rajiv Thomas, Senior Systems Engineer at Gas South, to discuss Gas South and how they're using ExtraHop, a journey of a security partnership. In the enterprise security news, Contrast Security partners with Secure Code Warrior. Bandura releases the Cyber Intelligence Marketplace. Illumio beefs up zero trust security with automated policy enforcement. Rapid7 launches Insight CloudSec to automate continuous security and compliance. A leaked email shows Tanium just lost its fourth chief marketing officer in 5 years. Bitdefender launches extended EDR. Thycotic Centrify releases a new version of Server Suite. Outpost 24 acquires threat intelligence solution BlueLive. Microsoft acquires RiskIQ. Cybereason raises $275 million. And Arctic Wolf triples valuation and raises an additional $150 million. Finally, we wrap up the show with two micro interviews from RSA Conference featuring Deepika Gajaria of Tala Security and Scott Shefferman from Eclipsium. Stay tuned for all that and more on this episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where we talk security vendors and aren't afraid to name names. It's Enterprise Security Weekly. Here's Jacob. He's uploading documents to the cloud and chatting notes to his outside agency partners. This is Zoe. She's rushing to share the customer list with marketing and is sending the latest product roadmap to her mobile device. Which one of them is creating insider risk? They both are. Everyone creates insider risk, sometimes with malicious intent and sometimes just by doing their jobs. Empower productivity and protect your data with Code 42 Insider. Visit securityweekly.com/Code 42 to learn more. The hybrid workforce is here to stay, and it requires real-time visibility, control, and rapid response of every endpoint, whether it's in the office or home. Tanium offers an endpoint management and security platform built for the most demanding IT environments. Many of the world's largest and most sophisticated organizations, including nearly half of the Fortune 100, rely on Tanium to deliver unmatched endpoint visibility and control. Whether you're preparing for zero trust or protecting your network from supply chain risk, Tanium empowers technology leaders to achieve greater agility, efficiency, and confidence. Learn more at securityweekly.com/Tanium. Cyber criminals are using social engineering. Welcome everyone to episode number 234 of Enterprise Security Weekly for July 14th, 2021. I'm your host, Paul Asadorian, joined remotely by Mr. Adrian Sanabria. Adrian, welcome. Oh, Adrian, you're muted.
Yep, sorry.
That's okay.
I actually just installed that mute button, just trying it out on my Stream Deck here. It works.
It works very well.
I was saying, I see what you've had for lunch there.
Oh, yes, that was breakfast, actually. It's carryover from breakfast, yes. I curse you because you told me about the sausage breakfast wrap from there, and now I eat it, and then I'm really full for like the whole day.
Oh, yeah. No, it's enormous. Yeah.
Mr. Tyler, not Robinson, Tyler Shields is here with us, even though my teleprompter still says Tyler Robinson.
Man, we are just killing it. We're off and rolling today with mutes and names and everything. But how are you? Good afternoon, Paul.
Hey, it's good to be here. I am doing really well. I'd love to talk about the Stream Deck stuff, but this is Enterprise Security Weekly, so we'll try and stay on topic. We did some projects on that. It's really cool stuff. If you want to stay in the loop, all things Security Weekly, please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe. You can subscribe via your favorite podcast catcher. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, sign up for our mailing list, join our Discord server, and follow us on live streaming platforms such as Twitch. Also, July 15th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, learn how a thoughtful approach to SASE can improve security and enable scalability with Cisco Umbrella. On July 22nd, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, learn how guided SaaS NDR enables rapid response. You can visit securityweekly.com/webcast to register. Of course, if you missed any of the previous ones, you can go to securityweekly.com/on-demand. This segment is sponsored by ExtraHop. You can visit securityweekly.com/ExtraHop to learn more. Rajiv Thomas is here with us today. He has 20 years of IT infrastructure and security experience. He's worked in various parts of the world for huge multinationals before settling down in Atlanta. He currently works in the security operations and network operation teams of Gas South LLC and joins us today to discuss how Gas South is using the ExtraHop platform, and it's titled A Journey of Security Partnership. Rajiv, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for having me, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you, Rajiv. Rajiv, I guess start with a little bit about your role at Gas South, and then a little bit about when we think of a utility company and we see a title like Gas South, we think, oh, they own all of the infrastructure and that's where I get my gas service. But I think our listeners might be surprised as to the real answer.
Thank you so much. So my role here, I started at Gas South at the very, very drawing board level where we set up the infrastructure from scratch. And now I've moved on. I'm part of the Azure architectural team and the network and security ops team. My primary focus today is security, and that's what I do. And ExtraHop is one of my primary partners in making that happen every day.
That's awesome.
Coming back to your second question about what people will be surprised to know is it varies from state to state, but at least in the state of Georgia and in the city of Atlanta and its suburbs, all gas companies, as we, a customer, know it, are only marketeers. All the pipelines are owned by one single enterprise. So we don't have any control over those physical pipelines. So we are a gas marketeer who markets the gas.
Now,
I hope that.
So do folks in that region have a choice of who the gas service comes from one company, but do they have a choice of where like the billing and all that other stuff comes from?
Yes.
I got you.
You can go and sign up with anybody who supplies gas in the city of Georgia. In city of Atlanta, it doesn't matter who it is. The only thing is going to be whatever rates that they charge you are the rates you're going to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, they set the rates that they charge you, and everything else is you're paid to them. But so it's what we call an open market.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an unregulated open market as far as residential gas is concerned. I don't know that some parts of commercial, you do not have that flexibility.
And so you obviously, as Gas South, need to collect the usage in order to do the billing and help manage the customer. Is that correct? Can you talk about what that looks like in terms of how you collect that? I don't know how much you can say publicly about the nuances there, but
Well, so we have the company that owns the pipelines basically collects the usage and feeds it back to us because they see the meters because the meters are on their pipeline.
mm-hmm.
And then based on that and the rate that you have signed up with your provider for be it Gas South or whoever else it is, your usage and service charges are calculated and then a bill is sent out to you. So on top of that, you also have a charge which they call a pass-through charge, which is actually the charge that the company that owns the pipelines charges to pass the gas from wherever the gas is stored to your house. So that kind of those are the three main factors you will see is the pass-through charge, the actual gas charge, and then a service charge. So
and then
that's how
the
bill
infrastructure
works.
you're managing, Rajiv, is that user account type systems where users log in and they can manage their account, and that's where your infrastructure in Azure and in other places, right, comes into play.
Correct. So we have infrastructure hosted in multiple data centers and cloud systems, and that's exactly what we host. We host the customer information and the billing systems, everything. So at the end of the day, if I'm a customer, I go on, I sign up for service through any of these vendors, be it Gas South or whoever. So they creates an account for me in the background. I agree to the rate that's offered to me. I sign my contract 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. So, and that makes me a customer. Then after that, once the gas company, as we know it, gets the usage charges from the company that owns the pipelines, and they put all that together into a bill, and the gas company presents the bill to me, and then once I pay that, they pass whatever charges have come from the other companies off to them. So we collect the whole thing from you as a customer, and then pay the company that owns the pipelines whatever they bill us for it, and the rest. That's how it works.
So, is your, like, when I log into my Gas South account, can I also terminate my service? And the reason I ask that is, like, do you worry about attacks where there's an account takeover? You know, obviously, me as a evil attacker, let's say, I want to turn off one of my neighbors who's really bugging me. I'm going to turn their gas off, right? Is that like an attack scenario that you consider?
No, you cannot do that because we don't expose any of those controls to your uh, customer-facing website.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to do that, you need to call into a customer care center,
Mm-hmm.
and one of our agents will then, after all the validation of who you are, etc., schedule a turn off.
Gotcha.
So that way, the customers are protected. The only thing you do on your customer-facing portal is you can sign up for service. You can renew your service if your contract's coming up for renewal by choosing different rate plans that are offered to you, and you can pay your bill. It happens to be that this morning I was sitting at the breakfast table and I just renewed my contract because
Gotcha.
it's coming up it expires in exactly 15 days from today.
Right. So one of your primary concerns is protecting the financial data in transactions.
Right. That's correct. So we have all that in-house. It's not exposed, but as we all know today, the biggest threat comes from an insider threat more than an external threat. I'm not discounting the external threat factors at all, but if you go back 10 years or 15 years, insider threat was never a big spot on the radar for any IT security firm or IT SOC team or NOC team. It was always, we need to build a wall around our infrastructure, put firewalls up, and protect what from outside coming in. But over the years, and from what I've seen through my experience, is that scale is slowly tilting to an equilibrium, where it's equally an equal danger from both sides. Insider threat is as big a possibility as an outsider threat today.
Yeah, it's interesting when we talk about network security monitoring too. So you must not just be monitoring on the egress internet traffic, right? If your concern is also insider threat, you want the network telemetry from also between your systems as well.
That's correct. So we need equal visibility of what we call east-west traffic. Traditionally, we looked at north-south traffic, what's coming in from the outside, coming into my network, and vice versa. Going out, we normally don't care because you're leaving my network, which we do care, but a lot of people don't. But whereas we didn't worry much about what happened inside the network, but today that's become the big game changer for most people.
Tyler?
Yeah, I think that's happening across the board, Rajiv. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if we start to consider, the decentralization of systems and cloud and things like that, you really start to think that the perimeter is largely shrunk to the individual asset or the individual device. Are you guys, and not you guys specifically, but across your industry, obviously more genericized you here, are you guys doing movement to cloud and movement to SaaS-based services, or is that something that, since you're an organization that is largely a marketing or market organization over the top of the product, is that something you guys haven't had to achieve yet?
No, our industry is completely moving to the cloud. Any industry in today's IT world, it's becoming, after a certain size of IT assets, it makes more sense to move to the cloud than to try and host it yourself. We were primarily used to host everything in-house, and as the company grew over the last 7-8 years, we found that, first of all, data center space in-house is a premium because it's not a closet anymore that you can put into. You need to build it out, and that's a lot of money. And then add on the security and all the other features that you need. So a lot of the industry is moving to the cloud now. Of course, a lot of them do have some it's a hybrid version. We do have an presence as well as a cloud-based presence.
Rajiv, what attracted you to ExtraHop as a solution? Now that we have some of the background about your infrastructure and security worries, I should say.
So we did a bunch of evaluations of different products, and we knew exactly what we were looking for. In the sense, we knew we wanted to see east-west traffic.
Mm-hmm.
We knew we could see north-south traffic through our firewalls or uh, NSGs, whatever we wanted to use for that. But our biggest blind spot was within our network and across our network behind the firewall. So we did evaluate a couple of products, and we were looking for two particular scenarios where we wanted to see lateral movement in a very concise and clear form. And we also wanted to be able to do diagnosis in an in-depth manner at a packet level. So we started looking at different products, and ExtraHop happened to be one of those that happened to come over and do a POC, a proof of concept for
Mm-hmm.
us. And we found, un, unknowing to us, that they could also see a lot of other performance-based what do you call variables that they could show us. For example, we had a couple of our um, database systems guys who always complain saying, "Hey, these systems are slow. Can you add more resources to it?" And I look at resources, and the resources are only at about 10 or 15% being utilized. And I would go back and say, "You're only using 15% of the resources I've given you. So adding more resources to that box is not going to make a difference because the problem is elsewhere." And then when we put ExtraHop on, it started showing us turnaround times of queries being run against databases and stuff like that. And that opened up my database guys saying, whoa, wait, this problem is not at an infrastructure level. It could be somewhere else within either the queries we're running, the way we structure those, or the way the data is structured. And we said, wow, not only is ExtraHop giving us visibility into the east-west traffic that we didn't have too much visibility into, it's also once it sees that traffic, it's able to point out stuff like this, which till today it was always unknown where the problem was. And in the nature of our work in infrastructure, it is always an infrastructure issue. That's where the issue starts at. All fingers point there saying we need more memory, we
Mm.
need more processing power, because that's how traditionally, when we had physical boxes sitting, that's how it worked.
Right.
But this opened up an additional avenue for us, which said, hey, look, and we went back and showed this to them. And the level at which ExtraHop showed us the data, there was no argument. The guys were like, wow, I wish we had this 3 years ago. And they started fixing stuff. And in the long run, that kind of translated to a financial gain for us because we didn't have to add more memory or add
Right.
more processing power to it. Because as you know, in the cloud, everything that you change is very easy to change, but it translates to dollars and cents at the bottom line.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how that network visibility and that pocket of whether it's IT development or security, you need that visibility. I've been in that same situation where actually specifically database people, right, will come and say things are slow. We need more resources, and I'm like, no. Sometimes it's like an MTU tweak here or the routing here, but you need tools to be able to bring that information to light. The same with network, security. Network is so important, right? You can have all the visibility you want on the endpoint, but what is it talking to is a huge piece of the puzzle.
That's correct. You need to be able to draw that map out for yourself. You need a tool that's going to draw the entire map and plug it into your north-south map that your firewalls and your physical switches are giving you to be able to come up with that, what we call the real network diagram. A traditional network diagram was, yes, I have a cable that goes from point A to point B, point A to point C, point A being your switch or your router. But today it's so much more than that. You have machines talking to each other. It's So applications talking to each other across VNets and stuff. So that kind of visibility, it's not a physical connectivity. Your
Mm.
physical diagrams are not good. So that's the other thing that extra hop gives us.
Mm.
Those diagrams, even if somebody's keeping them up to date, that's how people think things work.
Right.
But how they actually work is often quite different. Like you said, VNets. Once you get into software-defined networking, stuff like that, there's all kinds of tunneling traffic, all kinds of crazy stuff going on that those diagrams aren't going to capture.
Absolutely, absolutely correct. Because those are not physical connectivity. So there's no way you could put a pen on paper on that to show how that works, unless you can track every packet, which is humanly not possible. That's why you need tools like Extra Hop who sit there and do that for you.
That's really awesome. Um, what kind of visibility does ExtraHop provide you into attacks or potential attacks? I know they've been on the show multiple times, and in my assessment, they're doing a really good job of going, not only is that machine talking to that machine on this protocol, but also like either like it's vulnerable or there's some kind of attack that happened, which I've always been really impressed with.
Yeah, so the good thing I've seen with Extra Hop is it actually gives you a visible graphical picture of any lateral movement it sees from machine A to machine B. And it also looks at known and unknown uh, threat factors, which the AI has learned over a
Mm-hmm.
period, or plus they keep updating their databases with the way known threats act on a network, and it actually identifies these trojans and these other malicious stuff happening on your network and flags it and shows it to you saying, hey, I have PC A, it's talking to PCB and to PC on your network. This does not look a normal behavior. This more looks like PC A is infected with something X, and you may want to look at it. So in early days, there's no way you're going to find that out. It's not going to pop up on any screen anyway. You're probably looking at antivirus logs, which in today's world are not going to see any of your um, malware, spyware, none of that. For most part, we are always, if you're definition based, you're always behind the curve by the last iteration.
Mm.
So they're not going to see the latest and greatest. Whereas in the case of Extra Hub, it sees what is happening on your network and throws it out there for you. It learns it on the fly, shows you exactly what's happening right there. Now, it could be that I've written a piece of code, put it on PC A, and I need it's going to PC B and pulling some data for it to run a script. Yes, but as far as Extra Hop is concerned, hey, these guys shouldn't really be talking. You could go in and say, hey, yes, I understand, but that's by design. Then Extra Hop learns that and ignores that pattern between those two PCs for now. But for most of the cases, when you have two PCs talking to each other, it's more a client server
Mm.
architecture. In 99.9% everything is client server. It's never a client to client talk. So those are
Yeah,
the cases I've seen.
it's interesting, Rajiv. I hear that from pen testers all the time that successfully breach networks, and they're like, one of the things that they really collectively like to see more of is don't let the client PCs talk to each other, right? And that's a really interesting point of visibility when you can see that east-west traffic too.
Correct.
Client isolation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but client isolation is so difficult in today's collaborative world.
Mm.
It's a catch-22 situation. You don't want to build these walls and put client isolation in where it really breaks a lot of things, or you're going to have to start to micromanage and say, okay, I'm going to allow RDP, but I'm not going to allow uh, file share. I'm going to allow protocol D, but I'm not going to allow protocol S. So then it gets into nuances of micromanaging it. Whereas as long as you have your external perimeter secure and you have great visibility into what your normal traffic is on east-west, then when these anomalies pop up, it it lights up in front of you, and then you can quickly jump on this and ignore all the rest of the normal, as I call it, normal noise. Normal noise is good. Abnormal noise is bad. So you focus on the abnormal noise that's popping up and go and investigate those cases. Now, like we spoke a couple of minutes ago, abnormal noise could be made into normal noise because let's say you're doing a project that needs that.
Right.
You need these two pieces to talk because you're doing testing of a code, a UAT. Yes, maybe. So then for a period of time, you mark that as normal.
How was the deployment process, Rajiv?
So our deployment is a little different because we are hybrid. We have the on-prem as well as in Azure and other clouds. We went through different other clouds. So when we started deploying, the deployment process was very, very easy. It was, we had ExtraHop up and running in, if I'm not mistaken, we finished the installation in a day's time.
That's awesome.
Yes, we had the whole network going into ExtraHop in a day's time. Of course, we did come back and do some fine tuning, which is obvious for any product because you give it some time to settle down, for the dust to settle, come back, and then you fine tune it. And then we wrote a bunch of reports. And even those reports, we got them done in, I think, a day or two. We wrote about 20 different reports. And I was very impressed at how easy it was to write these reports and also the kind of data that where I could go and present to the management and say, hey, look, this is what it is.
That's awesome. Is it mostly span ports or other products that are giving you the taps, or like were you set up for that?
So we have our physical on-prem, we have them span ports. Obviously, because they're physical networks, we can just span across the switch and get the traffic into their device. Whereas on the cloud, depending on what the cloud provider that we are in offers us, we have to mirror the traffic across from each of the VMs or from the virtual networks. Right. Because some cloud providers that we are in do not actually have a feature to mirror traffic. Some of them have a feature that works pretty well, and some of them they have a feature which we found didn't really work the way we wanted it to.
Yeah.
The other caveat that I will throw in also is that our traffic sometimes is a lot more than what I think they have tuned to span, because I don't think they've seen people come in and say, hey, I want to span so many terabytes per second. They're not, so I'm hoping that in the future they will get up to speed with that.
In terms of the cloud providers, not ExtraHop, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah,
that is correct, because all that is done by the cloud providers and their backend. ExtraHop is just waiting for that data to come into them. That is correct.
And does your network teams and other sysadmins, do they interface directly with ExtraHop, or like how you said you wrote reports, but like today, how is that data shared from the ExtraHop platform?
So they all have individual
that's awesome
access logins to that. And some of them have access to all the reports. Some of them have access to only a subset of reports depending on their work function. And they have the access to go ahead and create a personalized report, because they may say, okay, I like the report that Rajiv and team have provided, but I need some additional info. That's too much info. So they can even just copy the same report schema and then modify it.
That's awesome. Adrian, Tyler, any additional questions for Rajiv?
Not here.
No, I think it's really cool. I mean, it's neat to see a unique take and how quickly you were able to bring ExtraHop online. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's a great story, Rajiv, because I think you found a product that met your requirements, deployed it quickly, recognized the value, and operationalized it without too much headache. So you can't ask for much more than that from any product or solution in your environment. So it's awesome.
Absolutely, and I think the other thing that a lot of people overlook when you look at a product is support, right? Because none of these products are simple. If it was you and I would be writing it. But so every time you reach out, I've had other products that we have used where the product's been phenomenal initially, and then we've run into an issue, and the support's been just thrown their hand up and left us to figure it out. Whereas with Extra Hop, I just open a ticket, and these guys are on a call right there. In fact, sometimes way faster than I expected. I'm like, guys, I'm not yet ready, but yeah, let's jump on it. Which is a good problem to have, if you ask me. Right? A proactive support like that is really a good problem to have. And they know their stuff and they fix it.
That's awesome. Great stuff.
Yeah, and that's not a nice to have. That's absolutely essential. I've heard so many stories from security folks where they actually love the product, but the company was so difficult to work with. It was so hard to get them, to fix things and to help out. They had to quit using a product that they loved just because the support wasn't there.
Well, I totally agree. We had products that we evaluated, and obviously the cloud is the cloud. It's not like a physical network. You don't have 100% visibility into everything. So for right reasons from the provider, right? So we tried to install a couple of other products, and even their own support couldn't figure it out. And they just went radio silent for like a year.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's
so not good.
That's one extreme of it. And the other
where's that customer success team at?
Right.
What customer success team?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's no success, so there's no team there, I guess. So, and then they call me back a year later and say, "Hey, I see that we were doing a POC for you guys. How is that POC going?" I say, "What POC?" There is no proof of any concept. We never got the concept working, so how do we prove it?
Right.
And then you have people like Extrahop who are so proactive. They reach out to you and say, "Hey, we have this new thing which we thought may fit into your environment," because they are, like we started off saying, they are not a vendor, they're a security partner with me. So they know where I'm going. They know what my vision for this is. Not for just Extrahop, but for Gas South as a company, where I want us to be. And that's a journey that I've been on. And as a partner, they walk with me, beside me, and help me get there. And they're innovating. So they come back and say, "Hey, we have this feature which you may want to look at, which you were talking about 6 months ago, and we are now trying to bring it out." And so they listen to us.
That's important. Rajiv, thank you so much for appearing on Enterprise Security Weekly.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
For folks that want to learn more, you can visit securityweekly.com/extrahop. The Enterprise Security News is coming up next. Stick around.